Bautista, great at-bats early in the season, did a lot of things, but never has looked quite like the Bautista who he can be. Donaldson looked great early, has faded with maybe because of some of the gaping holes behind him in the order. Edwin's had a couple of moments where he's gotten hot, lots of RBIs. We haven't had a real Edwin tear. But the ones that are puzzling, really, again, I hate to go back to it, are Tulowitzki, Russ Martin to a degree. Guys who you would think would be coming, if this is a cyclical thing, that they would be starting to come out of that cycle. And I'm not sure I can believe that yet.
Martin, I think he can take the to a degree off. I mean, there was about a 4-game stretch there where he was doing well, and that's been about it. Donaldson is the guy who was hitting in bad luck. Donaldson, I think over the last, I want to say, week and a half, you went over those series that the Blue Jays were playing, and the last 3, Beltre at third for Texas, Justin Turner for L.A., Matt Duffy for San Francisco. I think in the last 3 series, he's lost about 9 hits to phenomenal plays by third basemen. So,
yeah, he actually. I'm just looking at my scorebook, and I've got like 4 circled plays involving Donaldson and third baseman. So yes, yeah, you're right. He's hit the ball hard.
Yeah, I think it's at least double that.
Yeah,
since the Texas series, but it hasn't been like that for Ryan Goins or for Martin or for Tulo. Bautista, I think it was probably a month in or 3 weeks in. He had the on base up to around 480, and he was doing a lot of things well, but he's fallen off. But he reached 4 times yesterday, so maybe it's starting to come around for him. And I have no doubt that when all is said and done, Bautista's going to have an on base around between 360 and 390, and he's going to hit close to 40 homers. Shai wrote an interesting article about Tulo yesterday or the day before, where he talked about how he has gone 40 games of hitting 180 and in the past, and has come out of it and hit 300 the rest of the season, and he's still on pace to hit close to 30 homers. So I can't. It's impossible for me to think. Pardon me. It's impossible for me to think that Tulo's not going to come out of this. And Martin almost set a record for homers by a Jays catcher last year, and he doesn't have one yet this year. And it's impossible for me to think as well that he's not going to wind up being an offensive contributor. Goins, fine. He's not going to hit 30 all year, but I'm not confident in saying, oh yeah, I'll snap out of this and wind up at 270. But he's really the only one that I don't have faith in being an offensive contributor at some point.
Yeah, I hate going back to Tulowitzki all the time here, but it is so it's such a significant part of that order, and his absence as a contributor a lot of the season has been very significant. But what I keep seeing with him, Mike, is he's running into pitchers' mistakes every once in a while, and I think he did that the other day, in San Francisco, and that's great, and every good hitter does that. But I don't know how many competitive at bats I've seen him have against good pitching this year, and not very many.
Stephen, even against mediocre pitching, it's not that he's run into 6 mistakes necessarily with the home runs, but he's missing a lot of very hittable pitches, and I hate the armchair diagnoses, and I rail against anytime a guy comes out of a game and I get on Twitter like 35 different doctors telling me what's wrong with him. But when you look at Tulo and what he's been doing this year, and now you look at him in the field where he's made 6 errors in the last 15 games after going 61 games without making one, you got to wonder if there isn't a vision issue. And I wonder, too, if there is, how possibly they haven't done anything about it yet. He hasn't done anything about it yet, which is why it can, it's confusing Well, it makes me reluctant to bring it up because if there is a vision issue, he knows he's hitting 170 and he knows what's going on. Why wouldn't he get it taken care of? So that makes it difficult for me to imagine if that's going on. But that's the one thing that jumps out to me and to a lot of people when you see a guy going through what he's going through.
Well, and you know, you made the point about it, he's missing pitches, and I know Barker talks about this. He's not even offering it good pitches. You know, that's the thing. I mean, if you were swinging and missing, that's one thing. But there we've seen quite often where he doesn't even offer it pitches.
And he's arguing a lot about called strikes that are strikes.
Exactly. Yes, that's a great point. He really is.